Yeah, I think if I take it in a few pieces to start with, and mostly it's sort of a bank that has a mortgage book is typically a client, is all have targets to kind of like decarbonize by 2050, 2040, 2030, depending on the bank or FI. And a big part of those, if you have a mortgage book on their actual carbon emissions, is the scope 3 emissions. So what are people doing within the home? So we provide a range of tools that help banks and FIs help engage with customers, partly around saving energy, which is the hook for the customer, capturing data consent from the customer to use the actual energy data, and then making recommendations for retrofits to the homes, which helps in terms of green financing, green mortgages, and understanding the, I guess, climate risk or part elements of the climate and carbon risk associated to their mortgage portfolio.
That's really interesting.
I think it's a really good question. I think there's probably different flavors at different parts, because we're not targeted specifically within one kind of silo or like part within the bank. There's almost complementary elements. So like a starting point could pretty much be around the data we hold. And some of the USP we have is like we have like 100 billion energy data points on the platform across Europe. So we understand energy data and the flow of energy around homes. That's almost like a starting point. But to actually get real customer data, you need consent. So you need something for the customer to have. And that's almost that kind of starting to help people manage their bills. So I'll give a couple of examples for what that looks like for a customer. Most banking apps now have spending insights. So you're aggregating up into categories of how much you're spending on coffee. I'm in London today, so how much I've probably already spent, which is probably very different to the norm given lockdowns and stuff historically.
One thing we're seeing a lot at the moment is how banks can enable the customer journeys to be improved. A huge number of it's a superly interesting area of what can banks offer their customers, both to acquire them, to keep them engaged, and also to genuinely help. And I think it's one of these areas where banks are very keen to explore tech. Any type of tech that does that is really an area that we're seeing some interested in, and it's definitely somewhere where we're seeing people leverage, say, the sandboxes we provide, and pull these type of tech providers in and go, yep, this is an awesome customer journey. This is something that really we can see demonstrates value, and frankly, like you said, with smart meters rolling out, people want to do this stuff and they want to do it quickly. So I think that becomes a really interesting thing of how can you deliver this tech quickly, know what you're doing, and get moving over to production.
It's really interesting like how NayaOne is bringing together kind of like vendors and fintechs and into kind of that kind of ecosystem and providing a really easy way to do it. Is that kind of the drive behind it, Ollie, in terms of that kind of like how we're going to get bring more digital transformation into banks and FIs through the ecosystem? So the background is like energy utilities, working with more banks with one large client and a few others in like pilot proof of concepts. It's like, how do we do things faster? And it's like kind of like almost like matchmaking, right? I've got this problem and this is the way I can solve it. And here's someone that can solve it. And we've already proven it and tested it, right? That's, from a speed to market, time to value point of view, that's really powerful in terms of accelerating that.